Hi, and welcome to it's County Information Systems. So what we're going to do today is take a look at a manual accounting system, and I'm doing this in front of our on-site class, and then I'm going to post it for both the on-site and the online class. So the first thing we'll do is take a look at how a manual accounting system works. So you guys don't need to write this down. I mean, you're going to have this anyway because it'll be recorded. So we have a general ledger. We have a general journal. The general journal is the book of original entry. Everything gets recorded there first. This is assuming a manual accounting system that might look something like this. We'd have a general journal, which would not be loose leaf. It would be in a book that was bound, such that if something was torn out, you'd know that the page was missing, and theoretically it's all done in ink, because we don't want people doing things and then tearing it out. Then we'd also have a general ledger. The general ledger is all of the different accounts that you have in your business, all the different T accounts. There's a separate page for each T account, cash, accounts receivable, etc. Once you get to the end of one page, you just add another page. So this is loose leaf. The reason for the general ledger is that if you were to try to record all the information from 50 pages of the general journal, it would be really difficult, wouldn't it? You'd have to go through the whole thing and look for everything that had to do with cash, then everything that had to do with accounts receivable, etc. So what we do is we transfer that into the general ledger, into each of these T accounts, and these serve as the basis for our financial statements, right? So let's just go ahead and take a look at a couple of journal entries here. We start out with an entry to start the business. So we debit cash, we credit common stock, $50,000. We issued common stock to the owner of the business. The second entry is debit office equipment. We bought a computer and we're going to pay for it later, so we debit accounts payable to John Jones or John Jones Company, something like that. Then we use that computer to perform a service, maybe do a tax return for somebody. So we debited accounts receivable when we finished the return, gave it to the client, and we credit service revenue. Then we're also going to have some inventory, and we're going to sell that later, so we need to purchase the inventory. So we debit inventory widgets, particular inventory item, and we credit accounts payable to Able Company. So we've recorded all these items here. The next step is to transfer the information into the general ledger. When we transfer the information, that's called posting, right? So the way we do it is we take the cash account, $50,000, we go over here to cash, put in 50,000, and then we want to tie these two items together. So what we're going to use is, well, there actually be a date column and a posting reference column here. So we're going to take the date, which is 1/5, and also the posting reference, which would be the page number and the journal from which it comes. So we'll call this G1, because this is page 1 from the general journal. Then all these accounts will have numbers. This one happens to be 100, so I'll take this back over and enter it there. I will do the same thing for all these different items. Let's skip down to the to the office equipment entry here. So for office equipment, we have a debit of 3,000. Oh, I suppose I should probably have both a debit and a credit, shouldn't I? Yeah. All right, so let's go back up and we'll post the common stock here. Common stock, oh, didn't I include that account? I didn't. So for the common stock account, we'll call this 310, and we've got $50,000. Okay, so just to be consistent, both the debit and the credit. So then we'll do the same thing for office equipment and for accounts payable, and all the rest of these. But for the office equipment, well, let's go ahead and do that. Office equipment, I started that, I got the 3,000, and then the accounts payable is 3,000. I'm not going to put in all the other items, but you recognize that I would be putting everything into the posting reference column, and that's actually called our audit trail, right? These references form an audit trail such that you could follow through what's done, and that will help you find errors. It'll also help the auditors when they're looking for certain things. So that's all fine. I would do the same thing for accounts receivable and service revenue, inventory, and so on. However, let's go back. I'll come back to this, but let's start with accounts payable. When I credited accounts payable, I might owe 50 different people. Would you like to know how much you owe to each individual person? Probably so. So not only are we going to credit accounts payable here, and I'm just going to put in the number, where is it? It's 210. But I'm also going to go over to something called the accounts payable subsidiary ledger, and I'm going to make an entry here as well. So that's going to be for $3,000. And then what I might do is just come over here and separate this out to where I have 310 and a check mark. So that indicates I posted to the general ledger account, and I also posted to the subsidiary ledger account. Now, the subsidiary ledger might also have a number. In fact, it really would. But for simplicity, we'll just assume a check mark. Now, would you also like to know what type of office equipment this was? So actually, I would also have a subsidiary ledger for fixed assets. I didn't even write that in there, but I would have a subsidiary ledger for fixed assets. How about accounts receivable? You need to know. So you'd have a subsidiary ledger for accounts receivable as well, and also for your inventory items, right? So you have to keep track of all that. Now, when we had manual systems, everything could be entered directly in the general journal, but it's incredibly time-consuming and inefficient to do that. So what we did is we came up with special journals, and none of you have probably seen this. Now, 100 years ago when I went to school, you had to actually operate these and know how they work. You don't need to know that, but just to let you know, there were special journals. For example, here's a sales journal. This is a one-column sales journal. What goes in here? Only credit sales. So let's just record that one sale here. I had, it was service revenue for $1,000, and it was to Smith. So I put in the date and put in $1,000. And I would just continue to do this all the way down until maybe at the end of the month I have $27,460 in there. Maybe there's 40 or 50 or 500 entries. So now, what do I do with that number? I take it to two places. I debit accounts receivable, and I credit sales, or we'll just say sales. We'll just assume I have only one revenue account. So instead of having 50 or 100 or 500 different entries into the accounts receivable and the sales account, I'd only have one, right? So that's really efficient. But I would have to take each individual item and take it where? I'd have to take it to the accounts receivable subsidiary ledger, wouldn't I? Okay, so that's how a manual system works. So what I'd like to do now is go to the computer and show you how the computer system works. So some of you may be able to follow along depending upon whether your computers have booted up. And if I turn off the light here, is that going to be okay? That much? So ideally, we would have an icon on the screen here that said Denali or Cougar Mountain or something, but they couldn't do exactly that, so here's what they did. If you go down to the bottom left of the screen and you click, you'll bring up this area. And we didn't have a Denali or a Cougar Mountain icon, so we just used this arrow. So this arrow is where you want to go. Go ahead and click on that. It should bring up another screen that says Cougar Mountain. Double click on that. Click connect. And then here you put in your normal username and password that you use to get into any MSUB computer. Okay, so. Now, actually, I don't know if yours would have done this. I think I might have already been logged in. So yours didn't do quite that, did it?
No.
Okay. So you have a an icon that says CMS in the upper left part of your screen. Just double click on that. Right there.
Okay.
And it will take you into the Cougar Mountain software. How many of you have been here before? Okay, a few of you have. All right. So, for various reasons, it ended up being better for IT to set up a separate demo company for each person. Now, you guys can go into, well, actually, I prefer you don't go into your demo company. I prefer you just kind of watch, okay? And then later on, after we're through recording this session, you can go into your demo company and play around and ask me questions and so on. But I'm going to go into my demo company there, which is Mike's demo company, and I'll put in my information. What we will do is utilize the demo company to learn the software. So the demo company is all set up, and it has data from 2015, but you can go back and ask for that. So your reports will actually have things in them, and you have vendors and you have customers, etc. So it works well. So the first screen is the controller or the main module. I'll come back to this. Notice also we have an accounts payable subsidiary ledger, sort of. We have an accounts payable module. We have an accounts receivable subsidiary ledger, sort of, accounts receivable module. We have general ledger. We have inventory. We have payroll. We just talked about all those in a manual system, right? They have also added in some other things. Bank reconciliation, which is convenient. Job cost, purchase order, and then a sales module, SA for sales module. We also have a couple of other areas. These are dashboards. You can go in and look at these. I don't think I'll talk about them today. So what I want to do is just give you an idea of how to get around this area. And you know how in Excel there's 3 different ways you can do anything. There's probably 5 different ways, but it's similar here. So people tend to like this type of icon set situation. So we have set up and select company. We have install modules. This one, the IT folks blank that out for demonstration company, although you'll have it available in companies you set up. The add change users, etc. Now, in addition, you have something very similar to that right up here in all of these drop-down areas. So I'm going to click on that, organization. Here's the setup, select organization, similar to this, right? I like these items for two reasons. One is before they did the nice icons, this is all you had, so this is what I learned and this is what I'm used to. But the second thing is, these are all inclusive. They don't have a separate icon for every single thing in here. But if you want to see every single option and area, you can go up here and you have it. So, for example, set up select organization. If you wanted to go to a different organization, you'd click here, brings you right back here, and you can go to a different organization. I'm just going to get out of that by clicking on this red X. What I'd like to do is go through some of these different areas, and then maybe we can come back and I can demonstrate how to do certain things. So we're in the main module. In the main module, we have organization, we have security. This is where you will set up your password. Whenever you create a new company, you have to do two things immediately. You have to set up a password, and you have to set up a user that has total rights. In other words, a user that can get to anywhere. And I'll show you how to do that sometime, or you can read about how to do that. If you don't do that and you exit the company, guess what? Neither you nor anybody else will ever be able to get into that company, and you also can't delete it. So it'll be there forever until we call Cougar Mountain and pay them to help us get rid of it. So that's one thing. Here's some reports. They're not significant. Here's the options area. Every module has the options area, and there's a module preferences within every module. We'll demonstrate that more in another area. This window and help, we're not going to talk about. The help, of course, there's lots of different ways you can access it. There's also help in every screen. I'll demonstrate that later. So we've been in the main or the control module. Let's go to general ledger, because that's a very basic module. You're not actually going to be in general ledger very often. Why not? Because all the other modules are going to access general ledger and post to it for you. So you're not really going to need to be here very much, except if there are certain journal entries you might have to make at the end of the month, adjusting entries, or if you want to do some of your reports. So if you want to do journal entries, right here, here's the reports area, here's the option area, and of course within options we have module preferences. What this allows you to do is set up the system to operate the way you want it to operate. Now, one of the things we're going to do in this class is we're going to do a course project where you're going to find a company to work with. They're going to tell you all about their accounting, well, all about their company first, how it works, and then about their accounting and what they'd always wish they could get out of their accounting system. Then you will use this software or another software, but almost everybody will use this software because you'll know it, to meet the needs of that company. So you'll design a system. So you'll be selecting different ways to operate. For example, here you have different segments for the chart of accounts. Now, we are set up with using just one segment. But suppose you have departments, regions, etc. What you might want to have is 3 different segments. So you can get financial statements by department. You can get it by region, and so on. So you can certainly do that. I guess you can have up to 5 different segments here. Here's the account segment setup. Right now we have an account length of 4 digits, so pretty basic, and the name of the segment is account, and we only have one segment. But this is where you would set those items up. Where I didn't go was to the account item area here. If you go to that and then to account maintenance, it will show you all of your different accounts. There's 2 ways to get there. Anytime you see a magnifying glass, you can double click and it will bring up a list. Usually it'll be like your general ledger accounts, your accounts payable vendors, your accounts receivable customers, that kind of thing. So here we can just scroll through, and all these accounts are set up for you. The other way to find it is to go to this Find button, and it takes you to the same area. I wanted to do that. So under Account, we have the account maintenance. That's the major thing you want to worry about here. Under Reports, we have a variety of different reports. One of the nice features about this system, by the way, this is the first time we've used this upgrade. This is, in the past we had used a previous version of the same software. So they've done a lot of really nice things here. For example, if you go down below to where it says Reporting, it'll now list all your reports. And if you want to see what a particular report looks like, for example, this budget performance report, you can click on it and it gives you a sample. This is not necessarily for this particular company, but it's a sample. And then down below, it actually explains what this report does and why you'd want to use it maybe and so on. So this is a real nice way to just take a look at what some of these reports might look like and what they are, what they're trying to do. And this feature is available in all the different modules. Okay, so we've been in the controller module and general ledger. I'm going to go to accounts payable. And notice that down below, you will have a list of all the modules that are currently open. So, and you can leave a bunch of modules open except when you want to post. When you want to post, it's better to close all the modules except the one you want to post from, because if you're trying to post to a module that's open, it's possible that you'll get an error, okay? And it's hard to recover from that error. So whenever you want to post, I would close all those items. So this is accounts payable. Here's the vendor information. So usually the first item here is always a master file of something. If you're in the general ledger, it's your accounts. If you're in accounts payable, it's your vendors. If you're in accounts receivable, it's your customers. So I will just go in here, and here's vendor maintenance, and if I want to double click, here's a list of all my vendors. I'll just choose one, ABC Publishing, and select it. I'm going to hit the edit key over here just so it will make things a little darker. Notice everything's grayed out here. That means you couldn't make any changes. But if I hit the edit, then lots of things are not grayed out except the number. And notice the number can be alphanumeric. So, and we'll talk more about that. But in any case, all this information then is entered about this particular vendor. By doing that, it facilitates your operation. For example, this particular vendor has cost of goods sold listed as its general ledger expense account. So generally what we're doing is purchasing inventory from this person. So when we go into accounts payable, it's automatically going to bring up that 5,000, that cost of goods sold number. If we don't like it, if we want to change it, we can, but it's automatically going to bring it up. Here's a discount. So the invoice is due in 30 days, but if you pay within 10 days, you get a 2% discount. So there's tons of information that's in here. I won't go into it any more than that. So we were in the vendor area, vendor maintenance. The two things that you do in accounts payable is you enter the bills and you pay the bills. So when you enter the bills, you go in here and you bring up the particular vendor. We'll just do this. And I know this is going fast, but you'll want to review this many times. Perhaps you will. So in any case, I selected the vendor. It brings in a lot of information. You do need an invoice number. If you put in the same invoice number as you previously have put in, it's going to reject it. And the reason for that is it wants to prevent you from paying duplicate invoices, from paying twice. Okay. Now, when we come down here, let's say that I have some freight. Okay, and I wish I knew. Okay, so the freight, the cost per unit, we'll just say it's $10. And what I was gonna go look for is general ledger expense account. That's not the right general ledger expense account. I'm gonna put in 6240, I don't know what that is, but for our purposes it'll work fine. Now, the other thing you can do, instead of recording an item as a direct expense like freight, you can also purchase inventory. There's other things you can do here, but also, and we'll talk more about that later, but I want you to notice something. Notice that this column says description right now, and I wrote in freight because it was freight expense on the invoice. So I'm purchasing some inventory and I have to pay the freight. $10 for freight, X amount for the inventory. So watch what happens when I click on inventory and then go back to this column. It changes the stock number. So now what I can do is basically I can go into the inventory subsidiary ledger and I can find whatever it is that I'm purchasing. Maybe it's a swivel chair. And the previous cost comes in. If I don't like it, I can change it, etc. But I'll just go ahead and save that. And then if I'm done, I'll cancel out. So what I did was enter bills. The process is to enter the bills, and usually you'll do 50 or 100 at a time. Do them two or three times, 1 or 2 or 3 times a month. And then you will print an edit report. This system is a batch processing system. So nothing is recorded in any of the general or subsidiary ledger accounts yet. It's going to give me a chance to take a look at the edit report, which shows what I've done, and if I don't like anything, I can just go back in and fix it before I post. If I like it, then I'll go ahead and post. Let me show you something here. I'm going to click OK, and you have an option of printing to printer screen or to a text file, or actually other files, but I would say always print to screen. Now, one other concern or potential problem I'm going to mention to you is when I click OK, you're going to see a little box come up that says something like preparing report. It'll have a little blue border. I'm telling you this now because it'll go quick. But what you should not do is, while that box is open, you shouldn't go anywhere else. You shouldn't interrupt it. Now it'll go quick here because I only have one item, but if you had 50 or 100 items, it might be on there for 5 or 10 seconds. You want to just have patience while it's there. So I'm going to click OK. There's that box, preparing report. Oh, there's other items in here besides the one I did, probably. Anyway, here's the edit report. I can take a look at this edit report, see if it seems correct, and if it does, that's fine. I'm going to eliminate that there. I'm going to cancel here. And then my next step would be, I've entered the bills, I've printed the edit report, I like it, and then I would post the bills. Now when I post the bills, where's it going to post to?
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable, right? Where else?
Your general journal.
General ledger.
Oh.
General ledger. But I also purchased an inventory item, right? So it's also going to go to inventory. So it's going to post 3 different places for you automatically. Okay. And that's because we have the system all integrated. We could run unintegrated if we wanted. If you really dislike your bookkeeper, then you can tell her run unintegrated, and then it'll be a lot more work for the person. But if you run everything integrated, it posts everywhere it needs to post. I won't show you that. So we did enter bills, and then we posted. So now we've got a bunch of bills in there ready to pay. Actually, what it did is it debited a bunch of expense or asset accounts And all the credits went to accounts payable, okay, because we haven't paid anything yet. So then I would go into pay bills and prepare bills automatically. And what I would want to do here is just make sure that my end date is far enough out that I catch all the bills that have been entered. I'm going to unclick the electronic payments because that can foul me up a little bit, and just do the regular check payments. So what I'm doing now is I'm asking the computer to take a look at everything that's due over this period, and to give me a list of all those bills and prepare them for payment. So when I click here, when I click OK, auto-generated payments exist. So I've already done this once before. So in a real situation, I wouldn't want to continue. But for our purposes, I'll say yes. One payment was generated, one vendor was selected for payment, okay. So now I've been in pay bills, I've generated the items for payment, I would then print checks. We probably won't be printing too much because we have to pay for the printer. Theoretically and hopefully you'll be able to hook up to your computer at home. So you can do the same thing that we're doing here at home. You'll have the same access. And you should be able to print if you want to print. Okay, so we entered bills, we paid the bills. There are a bunch of reports we can do. Period end, in this software, there's little or nothing you have to do at period end. And then here's the options area. And under options, we have the module preferences once more. One of the areas in module preferences is the integration. So notice here, I'm integrated to general ledger. I can integrate in detail or other ways. We'll leave that for another day. I'm integrated to inventory. So it would post to inventory, as I said. I'm integrated to bank reconciliation. So this is fully integrated. So I'm going to cancel out. We've taken a look at general ledger and accounts payable. I think the next thing I'll do is go to I think I'll go to the sales module, and in the sales module you'll notice that over here under order entry, they call it order entry. I expected to see something slightly different. Oh, I'm sorry. We have both order entry and we have point of sale. So this system can be connected to a cash register, as most systems are. But we don't have cash registers, and we don't want to connect the cash registers, so we're only going to use the order entry part. It's identical to the point of sale, except it doesn't connect with the cash register. So in order entry, here's where you would enter your sales orders. So when somebody wants to purchase something from you, you click on this, and you select your customer. Whenever I have that magnifying glass, I can double click. I can select the customer, and then I can enter information down here. If I do nothing special, it's just going to assume I want to go to inventory. If I do something special down here, whoops. If I do something special, type something in there that it doesn't recognize, then it's going to say, hey, is this a new inventory item? Because I didn't find an inventory item for this. Or is this a non-inventory item? Non-inventory items are like labor cost. So you sell a big refrigerator, and there's also a delivery and setup charge, right? Okay. Did you want to create a special order? Or do you want to cancel adding the item? So I want to cancel adding the item, actually. So here's where you would enter all the information about the sale. And then down here you save it. And then I can exit. So we were in the order entry area, and what we did was to record a sale. Pardon me. Of course, We would then print an edit report. We probably record lots of sales before the end of the day. Then we do the edit report, and then we would post. That's always our process when we're doing transactions. Here's a bunch of reports. You can get tremendously helpful reports here. This sales history report allows you to put 3 different items together. So you could put together, maybe a salesperson, you want to know how much that salesperson is selling, to which individual vendors, and what particular items he's selling to each vendor. So you can put those 3 items together in that sales report. Another really nice one that works almost identical to that is the profit margin report. So that's going to give you all that information I just mentioned, plus the profit margin on each item. So that's really a great report. This promotional sales report, that will allow you to keep track of what your sales were for a given promotion. So I'm probably getting into too much detail here, but I know you're fascinated by this stuff. So we've been in the sales module. We were just in reports. Here's in this options area where you can do a lot of changing the system to meet your needs, customizing the system. So I'm going to go into the order entry preferences, and we've got all these items that we can or may not want to use. We have the integration area, which shows how we're integrated to everything. We have some defaults. We have user-defined fields. I don't think I've talked about these before, but these are really helpful. What you'll find is that different companies are quite different, and they have to keep track of different types of information. A given system could not account for every possible thing a company might want to record, so they allow user-definable fields. In other words, you tell it what information you want to collect, and then it will allow you to collect that information on a sale, for example, since we're in the sale module. The user-definable fields are in all, or most, or if not all, areas. Okay, I'm going to go back to the integration area and just mention, of course, we're integrated to General Ledger, we're integrated to accounts receivable, we're integrated to inventory. This is the one area where we are real-time, or we can choose to be real-time, rather than batch processing. So here's the situation. You have 3 different salespeople who are making sales over the phone all the time. If you're in a batch mode and somebody sells the last chair, the other salesmen don't know it. So what you do is you choose not a batch mode for this situation, but a commit inventory. So whenever somebody records a sale, before it's posted even, they just record the sale, just like I did. We haven't seen the edit report or anything. Then it shows that inventory item as being reduced by 1. So all 3 salespeople will know how much inventory is left. And then, of course, here's the accounts payable. All right, so we were in the sales module. I'll just do one more module, I think, and that's the inventory module. Of course, the master file for inventory is the inventory items. So the stock items, I'll just go in and I'll select one. And I'll hit the edit so that you can see it a little bit better. There's tons of information that you can get from this. Here, it's all along these tabs. So it defaults to the inventory price information. Here's cost and quantity information, history information, the vendors. You can put in as many vendors as you want. You may purchase this particular item from multiple vendors. Sales information. If you want to put in attachments, files that attach to this particular inventory item, maybe it's instructions on how to install it or something, you can do that. And then you can also have user-definable fields. In this case, it looks like we're using those to tell where this item is located in the warehouse, right? row 2 in the warehouse, upper level shelf. Okay. Now I want to go back to this first tab, and I want to mention a few things here. You guys might want to use this, the minimum and maximum order quantities. You might want to use that. If you do, you can go into accounts payable, and you can, you can go into purchase order, and in purchase order you can say, query my inventory and give me a list of all the items that I should purchase based on how much I currently have and my minimum and maximum order quantities that are entered. If you don't want a list, you can tell it, I don't need a list, I trust you, just prepare the purchase orders for me, and it will do that. So that's a really convenient feature. So this minimum and maximum you might want to do. The buy and sell conversion a lot of companies use. Maybe you buy it by the gross and you sell it by the dozen, or you buy it by the 50-gallon drum and sell it by the quart. You'll learn more about that. But if you wanted to learn about that, how would you learn about that? And the answer is you go to context-sensitive help. So the students in the past have not used this help key enough, I don't think. So if you go in here, it might take a minute or two to learn how to use this, but right here, here's the buy and sell conversion. So this explains the whole thing to you, and it gives you a great example. So use this context-sensitive help. It'll take you right to where you want to go after you learn how to use it a little bit. Okay. Now, the thing that I haven't talked about, I suppose, is that in these options areas, besides the module preferences, there's also some codes that you need to set up. So I'm going to go in and show you the inventory codes. And I will go ahead and click the Find key. I have a bunch of inventory codes set up. It could be for different purposes. I'm just going to select this I1 inventory. And what it does here is it allows me to set up different general ledger accounts for inventory. Maybe I'm a flooring store. I sell carpet, I sell hardwood, I sell tile and accessories. Maybe I want a different general ledger account for all of those. Maybe I don't. Depends on the company. But if you do, this is where you would set that up. You'd set up a different inventory code for each one. And you would then put in the correct general ledger control account and adjustment account if you wanted to. And if you want to learn or have an idea of what you should use as an adjustment account, just go in here and see what they used in the demo company, and then you can use the same thing if you want to. Or they used, cleverly, inventory adjustments. And then variance account, miscellaneous charge account, and the cost of goods sold account. Now, you can also choose your valuation method. Of course, if you want to, you could record some things first in, first out, some things last in, first out. Most companies don't, but if you wanted to, you could. So you've got all those different options. You can identify whether this is a taxable item or not, and so forth. So setting up the codes is where you will be able to do a lot of customization. So I've been in options, inventory codes. There's also transaction codes, and no, I don't know if you noticed, but this row and level, those are actually user-definable fields that come in once you set them up. Then they're available to you here. You can go in and work with them. Now, there's lots of other codes that you need to set up. I'm just going to go back to maybe accounts receivable and to options and codes. Here's your accounts receivable code, similar to accounts payable. Here's a terms code. So these are the terms that you're offering to your customers. 210 net 30, just net 30, etc. Collection status, type, I don't even remember what that is, etc. So there's lots of items in there. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to do today here. So I'm going to show you how to get back to your regular computer. If I go up here and just minimize this, this just takes me back to my regular computer. I hope that's not true, because it shouldn't be. If I click on this again, it takes me right back in. If I want to get out of here, then I should follow a sequence of steps. I should go up and I should close all of these items that I have open. And to do that, I can just hit the X over and over again. So now I'm in accounts receivable, I closed accounts receivable. I'm in inventory, closed inventory. Just keep going until you get back to the controller or main module, and when you click on that, you're out of it. Now, in order to actually exit though, what you should do is come down to this item. What's this called? I never remember. Start button? Okay, come down to the start button. Click on that, come back up. I expected to be able to go there. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, I just didn't click. Click on your name and just sign out, and then that separates you from the other computer that you were on. All right. Now, one other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to go to our D2L area. So I'm just going to go into D2L. And it really doesn't matter which class I picked because they're set up the same, only the dates have been changed to protect the, I don't know what. Usually it faster. I guess it's just taking a little while.
Are you trying to pull up your courses?
Yes.
You have to click on select a course. Click that arrow and then it should pull up.
I've been clicking it.
Oh, really?
It's ignoring me. You see this little round thing down here? I think it's still thinking or working on something. What I wanted to do was to go in and just take you through the setup of our content area. How many of you have been into the content area? Okay, some of you have. Now, to me, it's all perfectly logical, but not to everybody. If you want to get set up at home, the connection area is in there, right? There's a connection instruction list for PCs or for Windows, and there's one also for Macs or for Apple, right? So I was going to show you where that was. Looks like it's not going to let me do that. Okay, I think then for now we'll stop recording for the day. Thank you very much, and welcome to the course.